We had a request from one of our newsletter subscribers asking us how we like to run the Gun Bunch 518 hook in Madden 13. So we thought we'd go ahead and take a look at this play and kind of show them how we like to run it as far as attacking zone coverage. Now before we actually get into actually running it, let's take a look at those pass routes. If you look over here towards the left, we wind up having to split in. He runs a deep hitch route. He takes an outside release, breaks up the field, and then he winds up breaking towards the sideline. Against man coverage, once he breaks towards the sideline, there's a good chance that he could be open. So when you see him, if you think you got the throw, you want to lead the pass to the outside where he has a chance to go ahead and make that catch. All right, let's go ahead and work our way over towards the tight end right here. The tight end, now he runs a flat route over here towards the right. If your opponent, say, was to come out in some type of zone blitz and they wind up having an edge defender, in this case maybe a linebacker or a defensive back coming off the edge here, and then you wind up seeing that tight end going into the flat and you don't see any defenders covering that area, then as the quarterback, what you might consider doing is go ahead and throw that ball into the flat and allow that tight end to go ahead and pick up some yardage up the field. I, for one, do not mind picking up 4 to 5 yards at a clip if I can get it. And I'm always usually going to take that flat route if I see it open. All right, then we're going to work our way to the slot receiver. Now, the slot receiver happens to be the play's primary receiver, and what he runs is more or less a hook route, but he takes kind of a slant to the outside, and then he winds up running this hook route back towards the quarterback. Now, he is the play's primary receiver. He's the receiver that we're actually going to look to throw to with this particular play that we're about to show. And then next, we wind up having the flanker. Now, he runs a post route, takes an inside release, breaks up the field, and heads towards the post. Now, against man coverage, you might find him open against cover 2 man. Cover 1 with the deep safety playing over the deep middle, chances are he won't be open. We're actually going to hot route him on another route. The halfback, he stays in the pass block, so he's lined up over here and he just stays in the pass block. If you want to, you can hot route him maybe on a wheel route, maybe a swing route, or even have him come out of the backfield on a curl route. It's up to you. Now, what we're going to wind up doing with this play is we're going to go ahead and hot route the flanker on a streak, so you can kind of see right there. And then we wind up, the idea of this is to try to go ahead and get those hook zone defenders to go ahead and drop back. In this case, we might have a hook zone defender in this area here. We're trying to force him to go ahead and drop back into that area there. The same thing with the flat defender. Now, actually, it winds up being that defender we just showed with the hook zone, but you can kind of see the idea of this is to go ahead and get the flat defender right here is this one right here is going to cover the flat. So he's going to go out here and cover the flat. And as I said earlier, this guy right here, which is the hook zone defender, we're trying to lift the coverage up to go ahead and cover that flanker. And what that's going to wind up doing is it should allow us to go ahead and get the middle slot receiver open, but we're actually going to do one more thing with him. And what we're going to wind up doing is we're actually going to wind up putting him in motion, and then we're going to send him out here to this area here and allow him to set. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll talk about next what we're looking to do with this. All right, and he goes in motion. Now, remember, he's still the play's primary receiver, and he's running that hook route. So he takes that outside release, he comes up over here, and then he winds up coming back in that area there. With the tight end who's running this flat route in this area here, the idea of that is to go ahead and get that flat defender to go out here and cover. In this case, it should wind up being this defender here. We're trying to get him to come down here. And then, as we said earlier, with the flanker who runs this streak, we're trying to get these hook zone defenders to drop back. I believe this is actually going to wind up being the hook zone defender. We're trying to get him to come back into this area here and drop back in this area there. What should wind up happening is we should wind up finding a nice little void where we can make that in the zone coverage, where we can make that throw to that receiver right there, which happens to be the slot receiver. One of the things I will tell you with this play is you don't want to throw the ball too early, because if you do, there's a chance that that flat defender may react and wind up picking it off. Let's just go ahead and run it and take a look at it. And you can see right there he's wide open. We wind up making that throw and completing it. So definitely a play that you could run to go ahead and attack zone coverage with, providing that you go ahead and use the time and wait for that flat defender to go ahead and go down there. Like I said before, if the flat defender, if there's no defender covering the flat, then you might consider throwing it to the tight end right off the bat. Let's look at this one from the top-down view and just take a look at it. We're kind of do a little bit different than what we normally do as far as some of these video breakdowns. We're going to go to the side view here and just take a look at this one, kind of give you more of a TV presentation of this, of what this play actually looks like when we do it. All right, you can kind of see right there from the side view, as we said earlier, this guy's going to wind up running this route here, and he's going to wind up coming back into this area here. And then we wind up having this guy, which is going to wind up being that flanker. He's going to run that streak route. And then we wind up having the tight end. He's going to come out here in the flat. And the idea of this is to go ahead and get these defenders to go ahead and cover those routes, allowing us to have that spacing where we can make the throw to the slot receiver. So for example, this guy right here is going to cover the flat in this area here. Let's go ahead and get the right illustration there. This guy right here is going to go ahead and cover the flat into the area in this area here, which means what's going to wind up happening with that is he's going to cover the tight end, and then we're going to wind up having this hook zone defender. He's going to wind up going over in that area there. And as you look at your screen, you can see with these two guys, so we have these two defenders, one right here and one right here. Well, there's no defender in this area here covering this area here, and that's the reason that we wind up getting that receiver open. And that's the idea of this route combination that I'm showing that allows you to go ahead and attack zone coverage. And you kind of see as you look at it, there goes the tight end into the flat. We've got the quarterback throwing it, and it winds up getting that receiver right there. There's no defender in that area. So that's what makes this play pretty effective as far as attacking zone coverage this year in this year's game. So if you're having some problems, you're looking to go ahead and attack zone coverage, you might consider looking at this play because it's certainly one that allows you to go ahead and make that throw to that receiver.